All right, man. We are live right here. We apologize, folks. Just a few minutes.
Look like you froze up, Joe.
I am here in a location.
Your signal's bad.
Okay. How's it going now?
No, you are very bad.
Okay.
Yep, you are very bad. Can't hear you.
All right. We good?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
How you feeling about it now?
It's good. Looks good.
All right, folks. Well, this is it. It's the Tipping Point Show. Let's go.
You are listening to The Tipping Point Show with your host, Mr. Just Ask Joe, John Yeah. Right here on WLOU. Stream it live on Facebook and WLOUonline.com. And now, The Tipping Point Show.
Here we go, man. It is another episode of the Tipping Point Morning Show, and it is yours truly, Mr. Just Ask Joe, and my other host, my brother from another mother, Mr. BB Trading himself, Mr. Esoteric Concepts. It is my brother from another mother, brother John Yah. How you doing there, family?
I'm awesome, brother. How about yourself? I see a lot of moving going on behind you there.
Oh my gosh, man. I'm this is actually my freestanding garage here. And I'm going to be setting things up to where I have the show and all that good stuff going on here and kind of creating a studio type of setup. So it's a lot of moving. It's been a lot of moving this week, a lot of moving around. So it's been a trying physical and emotional week going on here, man. How's your week been?
Man, it's been busy as usual, getting stuff done. I would say this is a great conversation to have about mental health being busy. So I'm looking forward to this conversation with our brother.
Absolutely, man. And it's funny with us, man. Things kind of just come together a lot of times, man. We rock out in a lot of different ways, but it's always like the universe pulls everything together for us.
That's right.
To make things happen, man. And it's dope like that. So, do you feel that same energy?
Well, exactly. I think anything that you move forward towards, it takes a lot of work, but as you moving forward, and sometimes it seems like it slows down, you see that the universe is still working in your favor on that subject or whatever it is you're doing. So all you got to really do is just keep moving if you feel comfortable about it. So yeah, I understand how it feels. I understand the frustration, definitely in business and entrepreneurship and trying to keep up with everything, specifically with all these prices and you trying to balance your budget with all these prices going up. So it's a little stressful at times, but if you continue to move forward, boom, you'll see things pan out in your favor. And then, oh, okay, yeah, the universe got my back. So, relax. Don't get so caught up. It's still going,
You know what? That's the hard part is not getting caught up. Cause
right.
I can admit that sometimes, man, my stress and anxiety will hit me in the midst of a moment where at that second, I'm looking like, hold up, how am I going to do X, Y, Z?
Yeah.
But it always works out to where, everything just tends to work out. It just does. And then it's almost like I smack myself in the face and I'm like, dude, what was you worried for?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It was never the work. It's actually a waste of worry. When you look back and you think, damn, I was doing all that worrying, it was going to pan out to be this way anyway. What a waste of worrying. That's exactly
a waste of mental energy.
Yes.
Absolutely, man. Well, everybody, we got a fantastic show for you today. If you see me moving around, like I said, it's just me trying to make things right, work better, this, that, and the other. I got a lot of stuff as you heard going on with moving and stuff like that. So I want to give a big shout out to Dr. No Job. Like he said, hey, what's up, fam? We need therapy. What's going on, brother? Great Rising, Phyllis. We got a lot of good people that tune in and watch us and are wishing us well all the time, man. And I love the energy that we get from our people. And any more folks you guys want to comment or what have you, I'm working on something, but you can always email us at thetippingpointshow@gmail.com. You can always just the same, thetippingpointshow.com. You can go there. You can go to tippingpointshow.com/live and check out the show at the same time. You can go to YouTube, which is The Tipping Point Show, and Facebook, which is The Tipping Point Radio Show. But I tell you what, we got a grand show for you. I'm going to do a couple commercials real quick, and then we're going to come right back, folks. And we'll see you here shortly. It's Mr. Just Ask Joe and Brother John Yah on The Tipping Point Show.
Habibi Trading Company, home of soap, sticks, and Saya Baba products. Over 400 locations at a store near you. Cincinnati, Ohio, Louisville, and Lexington, Kentucky, Southern Indiana, or find yours online at sayababa.com. Again, that's sayababa.com. Habibi Trading Company, where you can find fragrances to incite your senses.
All right.
Hey folks, check out healthdaddywow.net. 100% plant-based herbs and supplements. Whether you're in person or online, use the word tipping for 10% off. Remember, feel better, look great, healthdaddywow.net. Remember, healthdaddywow.net.
All right. All right, man. So we're back, and I believe I'm gonna have another brother jumping on real quick. Let me see if he's here. We're gonna do our crypto wrap up. Let me see. Y'all give me 1 second here. Let me see where my brother's at. Mr. Crypto Kenny. Hey, John.
Yes, sir.
As we jump into this conversation, I'm gonna reach out to Mr. Crypto Kenny real quick and see what's going on. And but as we jump into this conversation, man, is there anything that you want to kind of give as a prelude to this? Think about that so that when we finish with Brother Crypto Kenny, that you can give us kind of a synopsis so that people can be in the right mindset before we go into this mental health conversation. But right now, folks, it is none other than the Bitcoin campus king himself, Brother Crypto Kenny, Mr. Ken Lockhart. Brother, how are you doing?
Oh, man. I always get on this call a little bit normal, like a normal person. And then when you do that introduction, I feel like The Rock, I come out, I feel like I'm running out the tunnel, and just want to say, again, thank you for having me on the show. You guys are doing some incredible things. I would love to even spend more time with you in production and everything that you guys got going on. But again, being busy, I think it actually goes with the conversation that you guys are having with mental health. I think a lot of times from a mental health standpoint, people go through these things because they don't have purpose. They don't have purpose, and they're not busy enough with identifying their purpose. So if you don't have a purpose and you're not acting towards something that makes you better, to grow you. If you were a tree, then you're going to start going backwards. You're going to start looking around you and looking at other trees in the forest. And when that happens, it prevents you from, it slows down the speed at which you grow as a person. You know, we all have to agree that we're only on this earth for a certain period of time. So why would God have us here? To kind of contribute to the miracle of life and the continuation of mankind and making it better. You know, if you look at those things, the mental health struggles that people go through is because they haven't figured that out in their own life. They don't really have a purpose. So sometimes people will go through, you know, try and live through their kids, or try and, you know, identify what they can do currently to have a purpose to their family, to society. And when you feel like you don't have that contribution, it makes you question your existence. And that's when you start triggering your brain to not function correctly. Your brain is a muscle. So it always has, your body is a muscle. So that's why if you exercise, it kind of alleviates the struggles of mental health, because you're building your foundation and you're breaking down bad stuff in your body, whether it's cells that are no longer good for you. You know, when you exercise, you're replenishing your body, you're replenishing the cells. What do you think happens when you get rid of, you know, old cells and you replace them with good cells? You're giving more energy to your body, the food, everything. So I know my segment is specifically about crypto, so I'm going to go into that right now. I just wanted to kind of give the segue. But what I wanted to talk about in crypto, as far as the way people can improve their life from a cryptocurrency standpoint, is you have to identify one thing. And this is not a get rich quick environment. It is a get rich environment though. The average turnaround in anybody's life from I don't have anything to being wealthy would probably be about 2 to 5 years if you have the correct formula. Formula meaning what I'm doing on a daily basis gives this result. If I continue to do this without any distractions for the next 2 to 5 years, I could be wealthy. Cryptocurrency can give you that with dollar cost averaging, changing your schedule to, you know, find out where you can invest a little bit more, as opposed to, you know, we do a lot of frivolous things in our lives. Like, how many times do we waste money? $20, $30, $40, $50, eating out. You know, I ordered an Uber. I ordered KFC the other day. The Uber was like $40. I was like, $40 for a KFC bucket for 2 people? I'm like, you know, I could have, you know, eaten at home. You know, the reason why I'm saying these types of things is because as we go into a society where it's more about the dollar going down, you have to change your behavior patterns and your spending habits and your savings/investment habits. It's a lifestyle. So if you want to improve your mental health and you want to connect that to cryptocurrency, you have to first look at your schedule and do something within your schedule on a daily basis that leads to progression. Whether that's education, whether that's investing, whether that's meeting new people, whether that's, you know, going out there and trying new things. If you're not taking those small daily risks to incorporate that into your schedule, you're gonna struggle with cryptocurrency, because most people think it's a get rich quick type of thing. So if you go into it and you don't become a millionaire in a month, a lot of people feel like, oh man, it's not for me. But where can you do that in the world where you could jump into something for 1 month and be a millionaire besides the lotto? And how successful are people at that? You know what I mean? So if you want to look at something that you can actually learn, and in 2 to 5 years, educate yourself and change your lifestyle, live differently, and be sitting on an industry where your money is working for itself, right? That's where you want to get to, where your money is working for itself. I think that can contribute to learning crypto and being more positive in your daily activity, because your structure of your schedule is going to lead to the happiness. If your schedule is not producing daily happiness, you're going to go towards negativity and a downfall. So that's my little piece right there. You know what I mean? I love speaking with you guys. I'm even before you reached out to me, I'm taking notes to make sure that I connected with what you guys are speaking on. But always want to make sure I bring the proper value to the audience, and hopefully I did so today.
Yes, you did, bro. Appreciate
absolutely. That. Love it, love it, love it. You always bringing great energy, so absolutely love it, man. Appreciate you. Until next week, brother. That's been Crypto Kenny with the crypto wrap up. Appreciate you, family.
Appreciate you guys.
All right. So I want to give a couple shout outs real quick before John speaks, and then we're gonna bring on our guest speaker here. But shout out to Health Daddy Wow. Thank you, brother. Shout out to you. Y'all remember healthdaddywow.net. Y'all know about that. And brother El Patah, shout out to you, family. He says, who will give us therapy? All right. So that's coming up. We're going to answer that question here. Ahamara Mathis, the General. Grand Rising, sis. We appreciate you. And per the conversation a second ago, Uncle Michon says, if you have nothing to focus on in your life, you seek to cancel it. Follow one course until successful is the acronym for focus. Follow one course until successful. Okay, I like that. I ain't mad at you.
Yeah, I like
in your daily life and future generations. Sounds like a t-shirt.
Yeah. Focus.
Your own self will give you therapy. That is Sister Johnny J.
That's correct.
All right, folks. Well, we're getting ready to jump into this conversation. Brother John, y'all go ahead and get our minds right real quick.
Well,
we bring our guest on.
Listen, we're talking about mental health, and we want to understand the difference between mental health and mental illness. Mental health is like really thinking of something that doesn't progress you, or having thoughts that don't progress you, having something to distract you. That could be a mental health. If you're thinking of suicide, that's a mental health issue. If you're trying to commit suicide, that's a mental illness issue. So don't be afraid to let's have this talk about mental health. Everyone's suffering or going through something. One of the things I like what Crypto talked about was about having purpose. And last week, I think the week before that, I gave a spiel about young boys growing into manhood. And if they're growing into manhood and they're around their 18, 19, 20, 21, if they're still living with mama and coupled with not having a future, like not planning on going to college or not working anywhere, that young man is actually going through depression. He's actually having depression, but we don't talk about male having depression because it seems like it's unmanly. So that young boy is going through a period of depression because of what he thinks of himself, where he thinks he should be in life, right? And that was a great point, because here's why. Depression is sometimes good for you and it's sometimes not good for you. Depression can make you move, get off your ass and get some shit done. Depression will make you exercise, eat right. You get tired, it'll make you do something. Or depression can make you sink deeper into the depression to the point to where you just give up and want to commit suicide. So this is why we're talking about mental health. We want to go in and talk about young men period, on what we need to do to understand the difference, how we conduct ourselves as parents, how we conduct ourselves in relationship, and how do we function in this world constantly when prices are going up. We're trying to define what a man is, because why? We having this identity crisis. Are you black? Are you Moor? Are you Muslim? Are you Hebrew? Right now we into, are you man enough? Right? And so much pressure is on us today. So we want to talk about that. And we hope that we get some feedback. Hey, listen, share this information if you think this is important. It needs to be on your news feed also. And if you have any questions, please share it with us. If you have any stories that you would like, we would like to hear those stories, as you are a man and the issues that you're dealing with. So definitely share that with us as we go along, because we are trying to heal our condition. You have no sound, Joe.
That is my bad. Without further ado, folks, I want to go ahead and bring on our guest specialist today, It is none other than let's see, LCPA, Chris Dudley, who is a mental health therapy expert. And Brother Dudley, welcome to the show. It's the Tipping Point Show. How you doing?
I'm all right. How you doing, Joe? How you doing, John? Yeah.
All right, brother. How you doing?
I'm feeling real good today.
Good.
Thanks for having me on, y'all.
Absolutely, man. Hey, you're looking good too, man. I like that jacket and tie get up, man. You don't have to do that for us, but we appreciate it, family. Hey, well, listen, go ahead. I want to just jump right in and start off by telling people, who you are, what you are as far as therapy is concerned. And, let's start there and let's get it going.
Well, as you've already heard, I'm Chris Dudley. I had a career in policing for about 11 years prior to becoming a therapist just recently. I got my master's degree in counseling psychology from the University of Louisville back in 2010, and now see various patients at both Revitalist and in a business I started myself called Empowerment Counseling.
I like that, Empowerment Counseling. So tell us about Empowerment Counseling. What made you take on that name? Because that's a powerful name there, Empowerment Counseling. What does that mean to you?
Well, for the last couple of years, I've been studying the Black community pretty hard, trying to figure out what's going on with us. Why are we sort of at the bottom of the socioeconomic positions in America? And I realize it's because we don't have families. And so that caused me to do more studying, trying to figure out what's going on. And that led me to learning about stats about what's going on with our men, what's going on about violence between our men and our women, what's going on with our relationships. And what I want to do is empower our community to do better, to really learn about what's going on with Black men and our families so that we can improve the services that we give to them and improve our mental health. Community, the building block of community is families. We were doing better back in 1965, prior to 1965, when we had a strong community because we were, over 85% married. We had strong families. But nowadays we've sort of fallen apart, and, sticks in a bundle are hard to break. And here we are all just out here single, falling apart. So
let me speak to that real quick, Brother Chris. On my other show, Truth Be Told, which airs on Tuesdays, 9 a.m. It's on social media, from YouTube to Facebook, as well as on a local radio station here in Louisville, WLLV. We've been spitting some numbers out, and I'll be honest, this is probably one of the first statistics that really, really, really has me thinking about it every single day. And with that statistics, in America, over 40% of children born today in America are born out of wedlock. And then when you start breaking those numbers down, that over 40%, over 70% is the melanated community in America. All right. So it's like 35% is European. I think like 17% is Asian. But I mean, you're talking like you said, like back in the 60s, 50s, you were talking closer to 5% in America. So this is recent. We're talking 70 years. In 70 years, America has reached a tipping point. And they say once you hit 40%, that's a tipping point. You can't go back. Mathematically, it is difficult to go back the other way once you've reached that tipping point. So when you start talking about that, we're talking about fatherless homes. We're not saying there's no fathers. Obviously there is, because kids are being born, right? Mm-hmm. But we're saying fatherless homes. How important when you start talking about those statistics and you think about the fatherless home, how important is that? Because you mentioned family. So how important is the father's role in family as we're talking about men's mental health today?
Well, the father's role is incredibly important, of course, but the whole over 70%, maybe it's 80% statistic about Black children being born out of wedlock, being born to single parent homes. The important thing is to ask why. It's not really just the number, because the numbers can be manipulated however, but when you start digging into why that's the truth, is when you start to learn about what's going on with our families. Of course, fathers are extremely important, but unfortunately, too many of us have been fooled into thinking that our men aren't important. So we're not treated typically with respect. We're not, and the female to male ratio of intimate partner violence in Black relationships is 2.75. So for every one man that's abusing a woman, there's 3 women abusing a man. And that's never spoken about. And so men are
now hold on. And I don't mean to cut you off, but I don't want to glaze over that.
No,
okay.
We can talk about this.
So when you say that abuse, what are we talking about? Are we talking about physical
and
or what?
Emotional abuse, physical and emotional abuse.
Okay, so for every one woman that's being physically and or emotionally abused, there's 3 men in America that's being physically and or emotionally abused. Am I correct?
Yes, and that statistic comes from a study back in 2012. It was the largest, most comprehensive study that included that, and it was the only one that's been done since. There have been many smaller studies, but this was a meta study, so it pulled together many other cases and put them all into one big study. And here we go with the statistic. In Caucasian communities, it's a little lower. It's 2.26. So still women abuse men more in there too. In Hispanic, it's 1.36. So still women abuse men more across all communities, but it's far worse in the Black community. And
let me say this, folks, this isn't a competition. Yeah. Okay. We're not saying this stuff to say, first off, remember, men don't cry. So we're not sitting here trying to whine and cry and all of that stuff. We're just giving numbers. We're giving statistics. And these are things that you can look up yourself. But this is stuff that people don't talk about.
And let me tell you, looking this up yourself is extremely difficult, because statistics about abuse towards Black men gets buried. No one wants to talk about it, because that means that you have to give funding to Black men. And the Black man is to be treated not really as a man and not really as part of a patriarchy, but more of a creature.
Was it 1/4 of a human? Something like that, right?
Yes. Not to be listened to, not to be believed. We are the forever perpetrators. We can never be the victims, because we have this mythological power of never being able to be hurt or never crying, or just that's the truth. And so it's finding this stuff. You have to go digging hard. And when you look at most studies, you'll see a sentence or 2 about men, and then the rest of it is all about, how men abuse women. And so you have to go digging for this deep. But once you find it and pull it together, the truth is staggering. We're not the perpetrators. Black men are good. We're the most involved fathers. We are the most involved husbands.
I mean, when I was growing up, that's what I saw. Honestly, that's what I saw. I saw the men in our community very involved. There was always a father somewhere that could fix your bike. Always, and even in my own personal relationship, my lady has been very amazed at the things that she's seen as far as what I do. I mean, I used to be an electrical engineer, so I just kind of got this mechanically inclined mind. So if something's broken, I can kind of, take my hands and I can fix it. And they're looking and they're like, wow, he's splicing wires together to make this electric thing work again. He's, taking this other thing and building it back together. He's, taking hammer, nails, drills, and doing all this stuff, outside of, hey, I'm a licensed life insurance agent, and do things with my mind just as much as I can do with my hand. But she's amazed at that. And then what it tells me is that there is a lot out there of a lack in this day and age of because those are things that came from my father.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And there's a lack of that is what I kind of see. So,
I wouldn't say there's a lack of that, because once again, we are the most involved fathers. We are the most involved husbands. And so we're doing that. The issue is no one talks about it. Oh, when a black man does something wrong, it's nationwide. You'll hear about it all over the place. Women will go on shows and talk about the violence towards black men and say that it's a joke. Some of them laugh at the mutilation and pain of a black man getting abused in the streets, sometimes by police officers. But if it was a woman, of course, they'd be all in up for. So we're not being protected by the people who should most protect us, are women. And who else can we depend on if we can't depend on them? So, when it comes to domestic violence issues, our women get most of the funding. They get most of the attention. When it comes to lack of housing or poverty, they get most of the attention. But men are just left to the wayside to fend for their own, as if, just pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. You're a black man. You got what it takes. Just do it. But and what's crazy is we kind of do, despite everything. 64% of black men are in the middle class. We kill it out there, but we don't get support. And it's not talked about. We do get abused and we don't get support.
Well, listen, I'm going to have to, John, I want you to jump in, but let me say something real quick. Brother, you got some serious support out there. Like for real. Shout out to Marion Smith Dudley. Shout out to Ellie Dudley. Mom. Shout out to Charles Dudley. I mean, your family is here and supporting you, and that is absolutely dope. So, to me, that just validates your position even further. But let me hit a couple of these comments. People are in wow of what they are hearing as far as statistics are concerned. Let's see. Absolutely. This is Uncle Michon. He's co-host on another show with me on Tuesdays. The Why, the abused man, men totally 100 a biblically related thing to the garden since the beginning. Eve actually hit Adam with the apple, folks. That's what my brother said. I'm just, wow, the things we don't talk about. All right, John, I know you got some comments, man. We've been rocking with each other for a minute. And a lot of times, man, I can tell when you are just, some things are going on and you about to just spit it. So give it to us.
Greetings, brother. Listen, that you pack a lot of layers, man. You do. You pack a lot of layers in just what you just got finished speaking about. From being a police officer to now being to this field here, we got a lot to talk about, right? So what I want to start with is, what does mental illness look like? Give me an example so people can understand, what does it look like for just a normal man, not mental illness, I'm sorry, a mental health issue. What does that look like, and where are we identifying this issue at?
Well, sir, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Mental illness shouldn't be treated as a bad word.
Okay.
Straight up. Right. I'm going to go with that. Mental health is just the overall picture of how we are performing mentally. Mental illness is like depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, two things that we suffer from a great deal: a generalized anxiety disorder, adjustment disorder. Those are real issues that need to be addressed, especially among the Black population. One way that
real quick, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but PTSD or PTSS, post-traumatic slave syndrome. Have you heard that? And is that the same as post-traumatic stress, or is our stress as a melanated community coming from our slave ancestry?
While I understand our slave ancestry, well, I'll go into that later because we're going in two different directions.
Yeah,
you know, you pull a cart in different directions, it's not going anywhere. You know,
I got you.
Go straight forward. So, but we can get back to that if you want. You know, post-traumatic stress disorder is the experiencing. Let's see what this would look like in an average Black man's house. You grow up with the typical strong, I don't need no man, independent Black woman. Many of us will fear our mothers because they're angry and they'll be abusive and you know, they want everything their way. You know, Black men are the only men who have grown up in a matriarchy, and you grow up feeling like you aren't worth shit because you'll hear your mom and her around all her friends say, "Oh, am I allowed to curse? Should I stay away from that?"
Yes.
All right. They'll be like, "Oh, niggas ain't shit. You know, I ain't doing nothing. You know, just a bunch of, you know, B's and S's and all, you know, all kinds of stuff." And you hear that growing up. And so you're going to feel that when you get older. You're not going to think much of your self-worth. You're going to fear other women. You're going to fear approaching them. You're going to fear success. That's part of PTSD. You need to, when you grow up in a household like that, constantly hurt, constantly feeling like you aren't nothing, you need to see a therapist.
Right.
Because they got to talk you through that. You know, if you're sticking around with a bunch of men who are saying, "Ah, man, you'll be all right. It ain't nothing." You know, you just pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Well, you know, at the point where you're 35, 40 years old and you're still having memories and issues with those past things, look, you've been behind the wheel for 35 years. It's time to give somebody else the wheel, somebody who's not invested in your problems and someone who is trained to help you see the negative automatic thoughts that you've developed, help you see some of the ways that you spiral, help you see some of the ways that, you know, you're not sleeping well. You know, you're waking up and you have nightmares about these kinds of things. You encounter a woman and you don't even want to talk to her because she reminds you too much of someone you've known in the past. Those are issues we need to discuss, and you need a professional for that.
Right. So when we make this description of what people go through, like it sounds like a lot of the stuff that everyone goes through. It's just a part of life that we're dealing with in this particular society that we're living in. Different societies have different rules and different makeup, even in the culture itself and how you meet individuals and how certain people in certain cultures are already planned to meet. Like sometimes parents make arrangements for who their child's going to go with. And so we're dealing with a society, in this society here, where we're dealing with food issue, fluoride in the water. We're dealing with alcohol, drugs, marijuana. We're dealing with a lot of other layers. We're dealing with not being educated right. We're dealing with religions that we are following that are not us naturally, right? So we got all these different layers. So when does a person know, or when should they know that they need to go and talk to a therapist? Meaning, I got all this going on in my life and somebody else is dealing with it quite differently, but here I'm not handling it. What thoughts in my mind that I should be looking for that would make me say, you know what, I need to go talk to somebody?
You know, what's crazy is that for us to see it ourselves is incredibly difficult. I can't give you the exact thought you might be having because it's different for everyone.
Right.
But I'll tell you that the people in your life see it first. They'll know that, man, you've been really down lately, or man, you got really agitated over something that wasn't a big deal, or man, you're staying, you're not coming out and playing basketball, you're not coming to work, you know, you've been a little late lately. What's going on with you? And, you know, we've been taught to say, oh, I'm just fine, or I'll fix it myself, or it's no big deal. Men typically are like that. And men who are struggling with, let's stick with PTSD, are even less likely to want to talk about it. And so it's hard to say what thoughts you're going through, but you should listen to the people in your life if they're starting to see that something is off. You know, if you're starting to feel like you're not living up to your potential, if you start, it's important for us to move toward our goals with intent. Mm-hmm. And if you find that you're out there listless, not really doing much of anything, then maybe it's time for you to see a therapist.
Does when you was working in the field as an officer, did you see a lot of issues dealing with our people that was definitely a mental health issue?
So many.
Yeah. And
so
many. So
and
how
exclusively with the Black community?
Yeah, how do the system deal with that? When you was a part of it, did the system deal with that? Just rush them on into the prison system, or how does that work when it comes to officers being understanding of somebody's illness? Because as a Black officer, I'm sure you saw stuff you probably couldn't speak on. You probably saw some stuff you couldn't speak out against because why you wearing the same suit as your co-worker is, and he could be doing something illegal or wrong that you think is wrong, but you can't speak on it. How much of that has an effect on our mental health? My brother was a police officer, and he told me a lot of stories where he witnessing things and not being able to say anything about it. Can that lead to an issue of mental health issues?
Of course it can. It can lead to mental health issues, and it can lead to death. And oftentimes, we are just carted off to prison rather than going anywhere for our mental health. I got some statutes over here. Let me tell you about brother Michael Craig. Have you guys heard of Michael Craig?
Michael Craig sound familiar.
Michael Craig was a 61-year-old father and husband. His wife, he had his young son call the police because his wife had a knife to his neck. He was fearing for his life. And his son called the police. Police showed up. They assumed Michael Craig was a problem, and they shot him. They took his wife to the hospital, made sure she was okay, but he had never put his hands on his wife. Michael Craig died from his wounds, and you don't even know his name. And that kind of thing it happens again and again and again. I saw Black men call the police and say, "Hey, man, I didn't do nothing to that lady." But, oftentimes someone has to go to jail. The domestic violence situations are a child arrest situation. So someone has to go to jail. And because the man is bigger and can inflict more damage, whether he's done anything or not, sometimes it's him. You just got to pick someone. And so, yeah, that has a horrible effect. Our fathers, the leaders of our community, the men of our community are put in jail at a disproportionately high rate, I'll say. And then while they're in jail, there are instances of abuse and rape against Black men that aren't even discussed. I think it was 2019 to 2020 or somewhere in that range, where 1.3 million women reported instances of rape. Would you like to guess how many men reported instances of rape during that same time period?
How many?
I'll give it to you. 1.2 million. But
rape.
Yep, rape. But because rape is defined as the penetration of someone else, they can't actually be victims by and large because it doesn't include being forced to penetrate.
Explain that. Rape, and when you say rape, when a man's being raped by who? Is it raped by the woman or raped by another man?
Both.
Okay.
Both, because a woman can force you to penetrate.
Okay.
I mean, we all know, you can wake up with an erection.
Right.
So your erection doesn't always have anything to do with what's going on with your brain. It's just sometimes it's just stimulus, and to use that to drug a man or to sometimes beat a man, to threaten a man, saying, "I'm going to call police if you don't give it to me," stuff like that. That's all forcing us to do something involuntarily. So 1.2 men reported that, and that statistic is nowhere. You have to go digging for it. The statistic for women that's out there, it's obvious, it's easy to find. But for men, no one cares.
So listening to you, are you saying that the problem with men, the majority or what percentage of that lies in the lap of women? Meaning our problem is directly because of our women. How much a percentage of that belongs on their lap?
I couldn't give you that percentage.
But you are giving me where conditions where it's because of the woman. We are majorly in this condition because of single parent households. Women are not having a man there that plays a role. But listen to this for a second, because that's very interesting. Of course, I came up in the 60s, and I witnessed, no doubt, my father and all my friends on the block had dads. And it started to change maybe in the 80s. You started seeing less, you started seeing more women. Then you went into the 90s, and more of the drugs changed the diagram of it. And then you have more liquor stores in the hood. You can easily take a home on the corner in the hood, and where it is sanctioned off, or what they call in other words, there are certain areas you can make a store into a home. You can make a store out of a home on the corner. But in certain areas, like maybe out in Hirschborn, you can't do that. You can have to have a store in a shopping center area. You can't do it in a residential area. And so somehow our zoning is different in the West End, where now you can get liquor store, and then you got church, right? And then you got drug house. And so now, when I noticed this, I kind of looked at two things here. I looked at that there are men out here that are lacking the ability to be fathers for whatever reason. There are some men out here don't want to be fathers. There are men out here that have children and they are not involved. So I started thinking about and looking at some statistics. It's very interesting. So when you look at this cycle, it's called a cycle that we're going through, and the cycle is getting bigger and bigger. So if the father's not in the home, there's two triggers here. There's a trigger for a little girl growing up without a father. She doesn't know how to pick a man because her first love should have been her father. Her first attraction or her first experience of love from the opposite sex should be the father first, which gives her the ability to know how to choose a man. So she grows up, she don't know how to choose no man. She's looking for attention from the opposite sex, but the man sees that she wants sex. So then she have sex with a man that didn't have a father himself, so he doesn't know how to be a father. He doesn't have a clue what that looks like. So then he have sex with a woman that doesn't have a father, and now it goes, they have a child, and now the father's not there, but the mother's there. And one point you made is very interesting, how a mother's mouth or attitude raising a son can make a boy grow up not wanting to be a man and not wanting a woman, or not particularly wanting a woman that looks like his mother. So he goes and gets the white woman. But is there a discussion about neuroscience, meaning that a woman can carry a baby in her womb, and in the third trimester is when the first download of information starts, meaning the program mind. So the first thing the child learns in the womb is the mama's voice, along coupled with her emotions. So the baby's in the womb feeling mama's voice and emotions. So let me give you an example. Let's say the father calls the mother a bitch. Of course, that word bitch is going to make her feel low, mad, depressed, or sad, right? Now the child hears the word bitch in the womb, but it doesn't know what the word is. It just heard the sound, but it's coupled with the feelings. So every time the child hears the word bitch, in the mother, while it's in the womb, the mother feels bad, negative, or whatever. So the child feels what the mama feels. Well, guess what? The child comes into this world, and it's called theta wave, which is a form of hypnosis. From that stage all the way to 7, the brains is just being taking in information so it can learn how to survive. Now that child will grow up and will hear the word bitch and will feel a certain way and don't even know why it feels like that. So we're talking neuroscience. We're talking how we are carrying traits carrying traits of memory that's connected to our feelings as we grow up, based upon our mamas or based upon our daddies. This is why when we say a child grows up abused, if he's abused as a child, whether it was by mother or father, chances are that person can grow up and be an abuser themselves, because that's what they kind of learned in the first stages of their life. The first 7 years is most important. That's the fadeaway. How much of your study covers that when it comes to mental health issues?
Well, let me start off by saying I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm not even going to begin to claim to be an expert in that field, so I won't go into it. What I can say is that what we experience post-birth coming up in that first 7 years, it is extremely important. And I'm also not going to sit here and I'm not going to trash talk men at all. You know, that happens enough. You can look on basically any TV channel and see men being trash talk. So I'm not going to take part in it. Men hearing that word, you got to know that usually that word is going from a woman to a man. Remember, 3-to-1, women are abusing men. And so the child might feel some way about it, but typically it's not because of anything the father did. On top of that, we still have to ask, why aren't fathers in the homes? Why are these children growing up with fathers? And I can tell you why. It's because our women are choosing, you choose to have a child outside of wedlock. That's a choice. There are over 30 different kinds of birth control. And that's pre-birth. And then after birth, and then after pregnancy, there are other options. And so the chances of a child coming into this world without a woman's permission, and again, the father has nothing you can say nothing. Once a woman is pregnant, you can say jack shit. She gets to do whatever she wants. But a child doesn't come into the world without the permission of a mother. So she can require marriage as the price for her womb, but typically they don't. Most of our women think that marriage, they believe in the color purple, like all black men are just trying to knock your eyeball out and beat on you. But the truth is, it's the opposite. And I'm going to use this moment to call notice to something that my father said not too long ago. He experienced more PTSD in his household than he did in combat zones. This man spent 20 years in the military. He'd been to a lot of combat zones. And I can tell you that degradation that he felt in his household, it was extreme. And, it was from a woman who passed that on to all of her sons. So a child may be feeling some kind of way about some words that are said, and a child may be in a fatherless home, but it's not because the father didn't want to be there. The divorce rate in the Black community is higher than the marital rate. By the way, we're the only community that's like that. The divorce rate is over 70%, over 75%. And over 80% of the filings for divorce come from women. Men aren't leaving relationships. Women are. So that's why children are growing up in fatherless homes. That's why they don't understand how men behave, how they move, anything about it. No one really cares what we think, what we desire. And so that disconnect from our women to our men is being perpetuated in the cycle that you spoke of. Boys continue to grow up thinking that they're not worth anything, and then our women grow up thinking that men aren't worth anything because they're taught by the only adult who's in the household 80% of the time are women.
That's interesting because even when you speak to that, when you look at child support, predominantly, and I don't know if I'm correct in this, but from what I've seen, it seems that predominantly the custodial parent is the woman, right? Mm-hmm. The mother. And with that being said, when they calculate how much child support, they take into consideration all of her bills and everything, which I understand because of the children and things but the only thing they take into consideration with the man is how much he makes. None of his bills for the same house that the kids would have to come over to, the same electricity and things that the kids would come over to hang out and play and spend time with their father, is taken into consideration. Nothing other than just, how much money he makes is taken into consideration. So it's interesting when you speak to that, from some of the things you said. And let me, read some of these comments here. Absolutely. Let's see. Families matter. Black men matter. Let's see. PTSD is major within Black families, and it shows within many daily functions. Household. This is what you just spoke about, what your father said, and this is Charles Dudley here. Household PTSD has had a greater demoralizing effect on me than my time in combat zones. Interesting, because I know a lot of men in general, or people in general, men and women, come back from military, or they may have served some years back, and now because funding has been placed, they're getting funding for PTSD, but in a sense like this, man, you come back, it's harder to deal with the PTSD or the demoralizing effect in your own home sometimes than in combat. Let's see. Much respect, excuse me, to the therapist speaking. The composure and raw truth is highly commendable, very poised. And let's see. Yes, we need to listen to those who care about us. I have PTSD from previous family structure. Those emotions people deal with will always find a way to surface, whether in healthy environments or not, which is why therapy is key. Ellie Dudley says women have used their status as the consummate victim to victimize men through socially sanctioned uses of force, calling law enforcement. And that's an interesting thing when she says that, because I always have this picture in my mind of, especially with Black women, over here on one hand, it's fist up, Black power, Black lives matter, Black everything. And then over here is nigga, I'm calling the police and the child support and everything else on you. You know what I mean? Like that, like it's like two worlds, and it's like they get to dip in and out whenever they want, right? But hey, Chris Dudley says y'all are dropping some serious knowledge. And then there we go. Theta wave. People are in amazement of what you brought with that there, because I think that is a formative conversation, because again, a human brain is not fully developed until age 21.
26.
Right? 26. Okay, 26. So, wow, that gives me another wow when you say
what that means is, when you say fully developed, that means under fully developed means you're still an adolescent, though a lot of 21-year-olds think they're grown. They're actually, the mentality is not fully adult. In other words, if their brain is not fully developed, then they don't make fully adult decisions. That's probably kind of why we still
26 is when our brains stop myelinating. So the brain itself is fully developed. Usually personality is fairly set at that point.
Yeah.
However, men, the lights don't really come on in our head until about 35. That's when we really start figuring it out.
Okay.
And it isn't until 40 that the lights are really shining.
Right.
That's when we got a career. We're becoming providers, protectors. We really know what we're doing. We know what we're looking for in life. We got our purpose. We're moving with intent toward our goals. And of course, at 26, your job is to be out there making mistakes, trying to figure out who you are. Between 18 and 30, go out there and mess it up. There's nothing wrong with that.
Now, in the light of television, music, and movies, how much does that play a role in our psychological development?
Oh, it's been huge. We have been sold on the idea. That's why the Black community is shattered. We've been sold on the idea that our women, they don't need no man. You can be strong and independent. You can get a degree and you'll be fine. But what are the outcomes behind these degrees? Men, the average Black man makes $41,000 a year. That's and it's by and large, we're blue collar. The average Black woman in America makes $31,000 a year. With all the degrees and everything else, the outcome is still they're making less money. And so in order for us as a community to come up, we can't do it with one income. You got to put A and B together, and then we can become greater than the sum of our parts. But since TV has told us that, you know, Ariana Grande, what was the song she came out with? 7 Rings, you know, about matching diamonds for 6 of my bitches. You know, she don't need any man. There's so many songs out there to say, I don't need a man. But very few, you know, back in the 60s, you had women singing about, oh, I love you. I need my man. I need you in my life.
We all were singing that.
We're together. But nowadays, that stuff is gone. Now we got men singing, I need you in my life and all that because it sells. But the truth is, men can do fine without an abusive woman in their life. We'll do just fine. We die sooner anyway. And so, you know, we don't necessarily have to worry about what's going to happen between 65 and 80. We should, but oftentimes due to stress, due to genealogy, due to police, due to sanctioned violence, we're not going to live that long. And so, unfortunately, our women continue on to live and they haven't coupled with anybody. And they're realizing now that they haven't coupled with anybody, they don't have enough money to survive through the end of their life. 65, you age out of the job market. People don't want to hire you anymore. If you're making $31,000 a year and you got a kid or two, you're broke, flat broke. 41,000. If you're making $60,000 a year and you got 2 kids, you're flat broke. And it's not going to get you through to the end of your life. So the fastest growing population of homeless people is Black older women. Just hitting the streets rapidly. And no one's talking about it. I want to protect our women because they deserve protection, but they're not going to get protection if they don't decide to marry, to stick with the man. And we haven't been taught TV, music, none of that has taught us how to manage a marriage.
Correct. So then what I was asking you was, how much effects does that have on the mental capacity of men? Television, music, and rap music. Okay, so that's what because I'm looking for what is called the default program. The default program is your habit mind, that which you continue to do habitually over and over again. Where does that come from, and how do we gauge in that? And so when I'm asking you about your studies about television, music, and radio, how much do you dig into their psychology of their mindset that was placed there by this entity?
Well, if you listen to our music and if you watch TV, you'll see that everything is about money, 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 money. Money becomes the pursuit. Money becomes the purpose. And the moment that happens, you're going wrong. That's not how you should live your life. Your purpose should be something that fulfills you, and money won't make you happy. I mean, look at Will Smith, one of the most richest, famous brothers in the world. $20 million a film. Will Smith, miserable. Money won't do it. You need family. You need connection. Life is about balance and bonds. If you don't have the bonds, life is miserable. And our music doesn't teach us about the bonds. It doesn't teach us about marriage. It doesn't teach us how to stay together. As a matter of fact, it teaches us the opposite, that we don't need the bonds, that you can do it all by yourself. But the only community that has bought into it en masse is the Black community. You know, that our 1 in 4 of our women will be married. 1 in 4 over the course of her lifetime. The next lowest is Caucasian women at 54%, twice as likely to be married.
What would you call our biggest vice that's out there that's keeping men in this condition?
I'd say it's the belief that Black men are lesser.
It's not
that
Wu-Tang.
That we can't lead households, that we're always violent, that all we want is sex. These beliefs about our men, because it's the men that pull a community up. You look at the Hispanic community, Caucasian community, Asian community, their men are elevated. And it's that elevation that helps pull everybody else up. If we were also elevated, if we were the leaders of our family, which we're capable of being, because, you'll see a lot of Black men nowadays marrying out. I mean, it's still a very small percentage. It's like 9% marry out. It's not a whole lot. But you'll see us marrying out, and that's because our women treat us with respect and elevate us, allowing us to reach our potential and reach our households. And bring our households up. So it's that vice, the belief that Black men ain't shit, has brought the entire community down.
So basically, when I'm looking at this, and this is where I'm trying to go with the neuroscience behind the subconscious mind, and because that's one of the focus that I write about myself is behaviors. And I noticed that a lot of times we avoid the most important thing dealing with the psychology of the default mind. We understand that 85% of our life is based upon our habit mind, that which we do habitually. This is why in books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, why it explains that if you grew up poor, why the chances of you are going to stay poor. If you grew up rich, how the chances of you going to stay rich, no matter how dumb you are, right? So a lot of times this deals with your what you think of your inside and how you see things on the outside. I understand my thing like this. Everything I see on the outside is because of what's inside of me. If I am harmed, or if I am in a relationship that's harmful, that is because somehow I pull that in my space based upon something inside my subconscious mind that lured it. This is why a woman can grow up in an abusive relationship, or their mother and father in an abusive relationship, and seeing her father beat her mother, that psychologically pulls that type of man in her space, and now she's got men beating her up all the time.
Well, let me say that it's more likely for the mother to be beating the father. I'm going to stay on that track.
Right. No, I understand that. Yeah, I understand that, but I'm speaking to neuroscience, and I'm really speaking to young men who are out here that are in prison and that are out here in the street. And a lot of times it deals with something inside their subconscious mind of where they came from, of their behaviors today. A lot of times we don't do what is called shadow work, meaning that how did I get here in this position? So let me give you an example, and I'm gonna share a little bit of my story with you here. Because this is a part of my writing, right? So I came up in a 2-family household, mother and father, 3 siblings, two sisters and 1 brother. And my father had 2 jobs. We weren't considered poor, according to my auntie. Yet we came up in the 60s, in the 70s, until my father died when I was 13 years old. During the time that my father, when I was 4, 5, 6 years old, my father would let me stay up late with him watching gangster movies. Humphrey Bogart, James Cagney. I don't know if y'all know anything about these characters on television back in those days. And so my father was allowing me to watch these gangster movies, not my brother. My brother had to get up and go to school. I was really close to my dad, right? And so I was watching these movies. And so now when my father died when I was 13, automatically, without me even knowing it, my subconscious mind started gravitating towards the wrong side of the tracks. I started hanging with guys in the streets, exactly what was going on. And my brother became a police officer. My sister's a business owner. My other sister became an educator. And so here I am now following the ways of what I was subconsciously introduced to as a child. So I ended up in and out of institutions after my father died till I was facing the death penalty when I was 26 years old. While inside prison, I began to imagine that I was something greater than I was in prison. I had begun to imagine that I was a business owner, and just as an escape, because why? Because solitary confinement was very depressing to me. So as I began to imagine this as a dream-like state, meaning that I was just very, very imaginative of something different because I was trying to run from depression, I ended up producing exactly the kind of lifestyle I have now as a business owner. And so what in my writing, I begin to explain this. So I begin to understood why I went wrong, understanding that it was based upon what my father allowed. When I looked at my life from burglary, robbery, kidnapping, murder, I looked at it. I was only following a trait that was given to me in the subconscious mind. When I started looking at my triggers, everybody's got triggers, right? I started looking at my triggers, and what would trigger me was basically money. If I felt broke, if I felt somehow I didn't have the money that I wanted, I would automatically in my subconscious mind start creating an environment where I was either going to rob, steal, or kill to get it. A lot of times these young men are walking around with that mentality in the back of their brain, and they're unaware of it. They're unaware of the television they're listening to. People are riding around with music playing in their car, talking bitch, bitch, ho, and all this information to a child in the back seat, right? The child grows up and carries these same behavior. How much of your study covers that area? Because if not, then we're only talking surface. We're really not going deep into the deep of the problem here, because nobody's telling, I don't hear nobody saying, turn off that goddamn television. Get out of that religious belief system that's got you believing in a God outside yourself. Change your food condition and eat differently. That affects your brain. Work out and do more. Assert yourself. I don't hear these things when we're talking about mental health. So somehow we're overlooking something. And this is why my book is called Escaping Death Row, The Imagination of the Innocent Man, and how I use my mindset. So what I am saying here is that no matter what condition a person is in, they can change their mindset and their whole lifestyle will change. If that is not included into this service or this service of mental health, then we're going to miss a whole key of young men out here that are going to continue to follow something. They're unaware of their subconscious mind, their default mind, that their habit mind is creating this same environment. That's why young men go to prison, go come out prison, go back into prison, go back into prison, because there's something in the back of their brain that keeps pushing them back to that level.
Sir, let me say that one of the things you just described was PTSD.
Yes.
All right. That's when we grow up in households that teach us that violence in the way. I'm sorry, let me interrupt myself real quick. Joni J, I love our Black brothers and sisters. Love them all. Want them all to do better. She said we should say that. Shout out to all of you. Nothing but love here. But I got to tell the truth, because, I mean, if we don't tell the truth, how are we going to get any better?
That's right.
What you're saying is, when we grow up, the things that we witness, the things that we see on TV, they affect us. They change who we are. We are taught constantly that money should be the pursuit. And we're raised by TV. Why? Because typically mom and dad, if dad is there, they're at work. They got to go make ends meet. You know, here, watch this TV, do something with yourself. I got to go work. And in a single family household, which is 80% of our households, that is exaggerated to the nth degree. I mean, how can the parent be there for the kids when she's got to go to work? Now, you got to sit there and watch TV and be raised by rap music and be raised by other children of single parents. And so you're not going to really understand what it's like to have healthy relationships. If you don't have a model, how are you going to figure out how to do it? When you go to school, you're taught how to do things. You know, you're given examples. If you don't have but we're not given examples of what healthy families are. And so if you're not given that example, if you don't know what to look for, how are you going to find it? You can't do it on your own. So you need therapy and someone to teach you, hey, that's not what seeking money like that, believing that money is the end all be all. If you don't have it, you ain't worth shit. That's the only way that men, typically black men, typically only value themselves with how much money they have and how good a dicking they can give somebody. That's it. And that's all that we're taught. That's all that's said. And so how do we be more without those examples out there? And the only way to get those examples is for us to become families, not just a situationship, a little relation, some boyfriend girlfriend stuff for 30 years. No, to turn our last names into each other, and move up in the world together, to learn what love is. And let me tell you what, the first 2 years of a relationship, typically that's infatuation. That's hormones telling you, oh man, I'm really into this person. But once that infatuation wears off, you're like, man, I'm getting tired of this. I'm getting a little bit bored. That's when the love starts, because you have to learn how to build, learn how to be there with someone. You have to learn what is love to them, because what love is to them and what love is to you typically are going to look completely different, especially if it's a male-female relationship. What they experience from love, what causes them to experience love and what causes us to experience love, very different. So it's important to communicate, to get to know these things. And that communication can get difficult, because during those times is when you discover, oh, I've been lacking. And to see deficits within yourself is extremely difficult, sometimes painful. But once you face them, once you understand how to show love in a different way than what you've experienced as a child, that's when you can grow. That's when families start. Right. And when families start, communities start. Yep. Black-owned businesses start. The dollar in the Black community circulates for about 6 hours. Whereas in the white communities, it circulates for a week. So immediately we get paid, paycheck's gone. Why? We don't have fathers telling us that's a bad idea. We're the more logical thinkers. And it's just natural. I'm not putting women down. Women have their own thing to contribute. They are the first teachers of culture. They are the ones who teach you how to love and how to serve, and these are the things that women should be teaching us. But it's our men who teach us how to operate, how to go out and fight the world, how to stand up for yourself, and how to be strong. And so we need both of those things, because life is about balance. And so without that, we're just falling apart, and we're constantly thinking that money is all I need when money doesn't do anything for you.
Right. One of the things that I like I said, I noticed when it comes to the airwaves, and over time from the 60s all the way to now, frequency changed. And the frequency, when I say the frequency, I mean the music. The music and the frequency changed to where now things are allowed in the frequency of the airwaves. Like back in those days, we grew up with R&B, love, love, love. Now we're in a whole different era where now somebody's controlling the dial and changing the frequency, and then we follow it. Wear a mask.
Black people.
Right. Wear a mask. Go get your shots. Now listen to this. How much does this mental health issue is connected to our diets, connected to how we eat? How much of that study is in line with the gut communicating with the brain, meaning that our lower desires within our gut, there's a communication between gut and the brain, to where the brain listens to the gut and the gut listens to a brain, right? And so here we are eating foods that are high in carcinogenic, causing cancer. We're eating foods that are causing our pineal gland to close up. We're eating foods that are fried. We're drinking waters with fluoride in it, which is a neurotoxin to slow down our brain. We're smoking marijuana, which is another neurotoxin that is slowing down our thinking process and making our docile mind. We drinking alcohol, justifying it, and it's another area. How much of this in this study that we need to be focusing on our diet, learning how to eat better, playing a role? Because a lot of depression, there's a big percentage of depression that's connected to our diet and how we eat. How much is that is inside of the study to balance out what's going on with the young Black man?
Well, I can't give you an exact percentage, but I'd say that our diet has a great deal to do with it.
Correct.
I don't know if fluoride is an issue. From the studies I've seen, fluoride benefits your teeth, and another thing that the Black community suffers from is poor dental health.
Yeah, really, one of the things. I'm gonna stop you right there. I'm gonna stop you right there for just a second. That's one of the neuroscientist issues you said you never studied. That's a neuroscience study right there about.
Okay,
all right.
I'll step out of it.
Okay,
I'll step out of it. But one of the things that we deal with is the poor diet, and unfortunately, buying a bucket of chicken is still cheaper than buying a bunch of vegetables.
Mm-hmm. And
so the poor diet oftentimes comes from the lack of food options. When I worked down in the back in West Louisville, it's a food desert. You can't, it's so hard to get to a place to buy reasonably priced groceries. And so you end up buying all this fast food, and it's just trash. And oftentimes you have to get the fast food because you've been working all day and you're exhausted and you don't want to come home and cook. It all ties into each other. It's all related to the fact that we don't have families. We don't have two adults working toward a goal. That's really what it all comes down to, the lack of families. If we had families and we had family-owned businesses, it'd be less likely that we'd be robbing each other, stealing from each other. It'd be less likely that we're crabs in a bucket because we've learned how to be a family unit, and that teaches us how to be a community, to grow up and be with one another. We got to open our eyes. We got to stop pretending as though the family ain't nothing, as if marriage is nothing, when the fact is two people owning stuff, under the same name, it's kind of everything. All other communities understand it. It's only us who thinks that it's not a thing.
So let me jump in here, guys. This has been just I mean, this has been an amazing conversation, and everyone is loving it. Let me read a couple the comments here, if that's okay. And then I want to jump in with a couple questions and such like that. Let's see here. Yep, that's what my mom said. You got a big shout out here, bruh, because someone says Johnny J. She says Charles Dudley. I think I heard you correct. That is your son. Great job. You can always tell when a man has been raised by a real man or by a man. And Uncle Michon, he differentiates male versus man. So that's interesting. You can always tell when a male has been raised by a man would be my segue to that. Now, when we start talking about, John, you brought up diet. I think diet plays a big part. I used to jump out there when I was a Vitamix sales representative. They shipped me all over the U.S. and I was able to use better eating habits to help with my Crohn's disease, right? So I was able to actually repair my body from the inside out, creating 100% bioavailable liquid from raw fruits and vegetables that I drank, which didn't hurt the intestinal tract. I was able to repair from the inside out, right? Felt bionic in a sense, and working towards getting back to that as well. But when you start talking about diet, synthetic chemicals and such that hit the brain, right? So even with fluoride is known to cross the blood-brain barrier and enter into our brain tissue. It interferes with the normal metabolic process of the brain, generates free radicals, and causes various toxic effects therein. And when we talk about how expensive fruits and vegetables are versus, a bucket of chicken, for instance. Now, we talk about a lack of food options with that. Now, I would say that it would be more, not much of a lack of food options, but more of a lack of understanding food properly or nourishing the body properly. Because you could go and you can get a sausage biscuit in the morning for $1, and that sausage biscuit will maybe keep you full for about an hour. You're hungry again, right? Whereas a medium-sized apple for 50 cents at your local grocery store, if you just bought one or something like that, would keep you full for 2 to 3 hours, right? So again, that would be healthier and actually cheaper, so, you would spend less getting full off of the right things if in fact we understood food consumption properly, right? So with that in mind, I believe personally that that's something, that does play a big part. Now, the average person is not worried about that stuff. The average person is not sitting there going and trying to say, oh, let me go grab this apple instead because that'll keep me full longer. But that does play a part. Now, when we start looking at that, some of the things that we talked about earlier, when we talk about marriage and how society looks at it today, I just noticed that Rihanna, for instance, she was getting ready to get married to whatever rapper this was, and they're pregnant, baby on the way. Now she's no longer engaged, and they're breaking up because she caught him cheating. So it's like regular problems that regular people are having, except celebrity is on display. And so now that's part of what teaches us to have these bad behaviors, in a sense, to not focus on marriage and things of that nature. So, that was just a thought when you guys talked about that. Another thought here, you talked about at age 26, the brain being fully developed. Religion tells us that at 13, we're supposed to be a man, right? Because Jesus was a man at 13. And so, we grow up and we don't even think about the idea that, at age, the brain isn't fully developed. So we push our kids out and push them out into the world society. They don't have all the right tools. So, another thought when it comes to that, but just bringing up some of those things there as we're going along. Those are some of the things that I wrote down personally, just in this conversation. What would you say, Chris, would be 3 top things that a man can do when it comes to this day and age for mental health?
Three things that a man can do. Let's see. First, seek therapy, because typically we're brought up in single parent households, and that on its own can be a little traumatic. Second, understand what you want. Don't be ashamed of it and pursue it. 3, I would say a healthy lifestyle. Take care of yourself, take care of, work, find your purpose, and keep your body in good shape. It does make a big difference in your self-confidence and even the options available to you. Now, if you guys, again, I deal with marriage and families in therapy. And so when it comes to nutrition, I'm not a nutritionist, but I can talk about food in a way that really piss some people off here. We in our community have a huge issue with how we eat. And it's, again, I'm not trying to go in on our women, but I got to speak the truth. The average Black woman weighs more than the average Black man. The average Black man, I believe, is about 157 pounds, 55 pounds, something like that. The average Black woman is around 167. And when I say men shouldn't be ashamed of what they want, given the option, Most black men want a woman they can throw over their shoulders and carry across the threshold. We don't want someone we can't lift. And so it's important to mind that diet just so that you can be in a proper shape to get the kind of man or woman that you want. We are men, we're visual creatures, and we shouldn't be apologetic for that. No one should be trying to change who men are. We've been visual creatures from the start, and we're going to continue being that way until the end. Now, that doesn't mean that just looks is the first thing that we want. Thing one on our list is cooperation. That's what we really want. What is a real man? That's different for everybody. What is a real woman?
Well, here's that discussion, because I had it on my list about this discussion of what is a real man. I think that alone is pressure. Because when we're talking about a man is based on just his biology of how he's made. Does he have penis?
That's it. That's what a real man is.
Right. Does he have a prostate? Is the key word for a man. Women don't have prostates. So what is the opposite of a real man? A fake man. So what man is, when we say, well, a real man open doors, well, what is the fake one? The one that don't open doors, and what does that look like? You see, the problem is that if I'm a man, that's not something I have to exert. I don't have to go around wear a shirt say I'm a man. It's just I just be. If you don't know I'm a man, that's your problem. It ain't mine. But somehow we under this pressure, we gotta prove to be a man. And what does that look like? Because that right there is a sign of mental health issue. You run around trying to prove you're a man. You're born with all the tools that you're a man. So when we get to this, what is a real man? Well, some people think that going to the army will make you a real man. Do you know also there are some people think going to prison makes you a real man, or joining a gang makes you a real man? I think those discussions right there alone are unhealthy for us as being men. But I would like to ask you this question about gay men. Now, how much of that is a mental health issue?
0%.
Explain it.
Who you're attracted to sexually is not a choice that you have. It's something that's you're born, and when your hormones hit, they're going to tell you who you're going to be attracted to. You don't get to pick. I mean, that's science. I'm going to stay right on top of it. You do not pick who you are attracted to. So a gay man, still a man, but he's attracted to men. So what?
But
what I'm really curious about is men's preoccupation to who other men are sleeping with. Why do you care? It's not anyone's business. Let them go about and do their thing. How about you do you? If they're going about and doing them, don't be mad because they're doing them better than you're doing you. Don't worry about their business.
That's correct. But here's the thing. We are talking about mental health issues.
Yes.
So
sexuality is not a mental health issue.
Well, wait a minute. You mentioned about family. Is family two men and children, or is family man, wife, and children?
A family is two people getting together and building together, choosing to stay and learning how to love one another, learning how to respect one another. That's all it is. I'm not going to sit here and say that two men can't make a family, because I've seen two men make a family with better mental health than a man and a woman. I mean, it's to each his own. But speaking on the real man thing, if you hear a woman going on about real man and what is a real man, all that is sign language. All that is shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right.
Gotcha. Let's go back for a second. You mentioned something that I want to revisit. You spoke about the relationship between man and woman, and the woman having the issues with this man and can do whatever, the laws with him, whatever, raising children. But you're saying that it's okay. There is no issue with two men whatsoever that you saw, but you see issues with. You see,
I did not say that, sir.
So that's why I'm trying to get to the mental health issue. So we're talking mental health. And so that's what I'm asking. Just like we had a sister on here just last week that identified, yes, that is a mental health issue. And this is why I wanted to have that discussion with you. And do you see that as a mental health issue? You said no, exactly. So if it's no, then how does it have an effect towards raising a positive family without a woman? How do you do that without the woman? How can two men do that, raise a healthy family, but a woman can't? I don't
With
get
a good
how.
attitude.
How's that work?
With a good attitude. You can have a woman and a man, or a man and a man, treat each other like they're human beings, not calling each other down, not calling them names, not screaming at them, not treating them like shit, not abusing them. And there you have a model for a positive relationship. Now, their children might grow up and be straight because, I mean, your hormones pick what you're going to be attracted to. And if they've grown up in a household where two people have shown them the model of a positive relationship, they're going to go out there and have a positive relationship with whomever that they choose to be with.
Right. Did you know that there's a percentage of men who are gay was because they were touched when they were a child?
No, that doesn't turn you gay. Your hormones turn you gay. Being touched as a child can generally creates PTSD. It will oftentimes create a fear that will cause you to not be willing to engage in relationships. It can cause a lot of issues, but it doesn't cause you to suddenly be gay.
So you're saying that gay is not a social issue, it's some type of biological issue. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, gay is in your hormones. And it's not an issue, it just is.
It's in your hormones. You can be born gay.
Yes.
Wow. You just blow my mind with that one. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. You again skipping over the neuroscience piece that I just spoke about. You see, behaviors are learned. Behaviors, you're not born with them. You learn them based on the environment that you pick up. Your subconscious mind learns everything, the environment that it comes in. Your child is growing to this world. They don't know whether they're male or female, or attracted to man or a woman. It's based on the environment they are put in. This is just a fact that there is no such thing as a person.
That is not a fact.
There is no such thing as a person born gay.
You are born into this life, of course, not knowing if you're going to be attracted to a male and a female because you haven't developed secondary sex characteristics. Your hormones aren't
well.
there.
If you go back to the theta wave, the third trimester thing,
exactly,
that kind of helps play. That kind of helps explain that. If we go back to the whole theta wave conversation, third trimester, and gravitating to feelings and learning things based on feelings, and then once the child is born, you then look at what they see. If their dad is kissing, each other in front of them, just like a normal husband and wife would, then they're going to gravitate to that. If I were to sit here and give my children the time that they can eat
gravitate toward that, but what they will do is be more forgiving, more so than not of gay relationships. If their hormones are going to do what they're going to do, they're attracted to women, they're attracted to women.
There is no such thing as a gay. There is no such thing as a gay hormone.
If you grow up seeing the gay community and the horrors that they have to endure, the abuses that they have to endure, you will be more likely to be more understanding of the community. You're not going to treat gay men as if they're creatures, the same way that so many treat black men. You're
absolutely agree.
As if they are human beings.
I agree with that.
Make choices.
Yeah, I agree with
absolutely
that.
Agree.
Absolutely. But we're still talking about the health. We're talking about mental health. And so we're describing what is mental health. And how do you describe mental health? It's a healthy family. How do you describe a healthy family? It's based upon two parents that are coming together. One has a vagina and one has a penis.
No, that's not how I would describe mental health or family.
Right. So when you're talking family. So now let me ask you this question. Is spanking a child a mental health issue? Do you agree, or do you think some children should be spanked?
Is that a mental health? Are you saying that if
physically
parent
whooping
spanks a child,
right? Physically
they have mental health issues?
Yeah, physically whooping a child, is that a mental health issue in the parent, and would that create mental health issue in that child?
Spanking a child by itself is not evidence of mental health issues. No.
Okay.
And will it by itself create mental health issues? No, because so much goes into us, not only between, when we're born until we're 7 years old, but what do we experience on TV? What are our friends telling us? What are our parents demonstrating to us? Everything goes into that. And then, of course, there's our own biology. What are we more prone to believe, or how are we more likely to behave? All of those things go into it. And the mental health, depression can be helped along its way. There are things that can cause you to become more or less depressed, but typically depression is a chemical imbalance. It's not something you have a choice in. It happens to you. And there are things that there are environmental factors that can exacerbate it. And when you're a kid, there are things that will cause you to be more traumatized than other things. Watching your parent get beaten up, be yelled at, be called down, be said that they ain't shit, that kind of thing will cause trauma. Being spanked out of anger, just rage for no reason, that kind of thing can cause trauma.
Correct.
Because the less in control you feel, the more likely you are to develop PTSD.
Correct.
So, yeah, there are a lot of things that can cause it, but to boil any mental health issue down to a single point, it's just going to lead you wrong.
Correct. Have you ever studied Amos Wilson's book on the psychological development of Black children?
Not yet. Right now, I'm reading The Man Not, which I strongly recommend everyone pick up.
Yeah, I recommend anybody in the field of psychology check this book out. I think it's very interesting where it talks about children being whooped, the slavery mentality. I think it really goes in depth of the psychology of the mind when it comes to a child. A child is very impressionable, and a parent that has to whoop a child lacks the ability to impress a young mind. And so that's where the anger comes in. That's where the frustration. Every child can be actually coached into behaving correct based upon the parent. And I think that's the role with that, what we talked about, the theta wave, the 7 years of downloading information starts at that very critical time you're born till you're 7 years old. And according to that neuroscience, when a child is born, they're only taking in information. They ain't siphoning nothing. They're taking it in. This is why children can learn multiple languages before they're 7, right? After 7, then they have to do something repeatedly over and over again to keep it into the memory, right? This plays a role when we're talking about 80% of your life right now is habitual, based upon where you were when you was before you were 7 years old. Your habits, your eating habits, all these behaviors are picked up. This is why I was explaining that homosexuality is not a birth thing. It's an environment thing. It's based on what you picked up in the environment you're born in. And every ounce of your life, every thought that you have was something, and every habit that you have was picked up based on an environment. You wasn't born with it. You picked that environment up. And I think, again, this will be a great book for you to digest, and you would explain that deeply. Also, a neuroscientist by the name of Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza breaks it down about how the brain works in a child's mind before they're 7 years old. And I think that's something we're missing when we're talking about mental health today in men. Another question I would like to talk about real quick is the schizophrenic young men around here. Schizophrenia starts in 17, 18 years old, and they're walking around with that mentality of schizophrenia and just start talking whatever. How much role does that play? And I noticed that schizophrenia is up. Is that connected to the shots that they were giving children back when they were young?
No. And all right, about your book, how does that explain, let's say, Charles Manson? For one example, I could go into others, but Charles Manson, he had a great upbringing, 2 loving parents, and then he grew up to murder and eat people. because it was just his predisposition to want to murder and eat people. It
Right,
was nothing that he saw coming up. It's nothing that he witnessed. It was just something that he decided to do. It also doesn't explain the many children who decide to not be like what they saw growing up. And so you may pick up things, but in the end, we all have agency.
Bingo.
What you're saying is completely disregarding our own agency.
Boom. The bingo. No, I'm saying we have the ability to change our minds. We have the ability to use affirmations to change that condition. And second, and most important, no, you didn't follow Charles Manson around to know every inch of his life. You just heard that information. You really don't know the intricacies of Charles Manson's life, how he ate, what was he experiencing, because he had two parents don't have nothing to do with every day of his life all the way up until he became a murderer. So absolutely not. But you do pick up habits and things that you see from the outside that you pull in, just like we gravitate those things inside of us, our emotions and feelings. We gravitate those people and those situations into our lives. If we're not addressing those things, then we're missing something. But you're right, because I believe in affirmation. I believe in reprogramming my subconscious mind, and I see what I want to see out here. This is how I have my company that I got now, based upon changing my mindset from the streets. So no, we're not saying you're stuck there. We're saying that you can find this condition and do some shadow work. Shadow work means go inside your own brain to find your issues to fix it. There's two different types of psychology, psychologist and a psychiatrist. One will give you a chemical to give you a chemical balance. The other one will set you on the couch so much that you talk about the problem that it doesn't bother you no more. But they're both in the back of the brain. One can't handle it and needs some type of medicine. The other one, all they need to do is go seek therapy and sit down on your couch and talk with you.
Those two things need to be done together: psychiatry and psychology.
In some cases, not all cases. You don't always need medicine to handle a problem.
I'm not saying you always need it. Right. And sir, we got to stop doing that as a community. What is this all or nothing thinking? That's a sign of disease, by the way. All or nothing, black or white thinking. I didn't say it has to be 100%, but both are typically needed.
Exactly.
When somebody gets depressed, you're going to have to go in and get your chemical balance. But then you're going to have to go talk to somebody about what's going on. A psychiatrist typically won't talk to you. I'll have a short meeting. They don't do therapy. You need someone trained in therapy to handle that kind of thing.
Correct.
And so you have to have both. And I'm going back to Charles Manson again. I don't like to speak about the guy, but his past has been well documented. And it's okay for me to use information and documents to say he had a good upbringing. I don't have to have followed him around every instance of his life to see that's black and white thinking. I don't need that. Generalizations are valid. And so I can use them to explain a subject. As a matter of fact, typically it's the only way to move the cart forward. If we start acting like we have to count in every single case everywhere and see 100% that the cart's being pulled in 8 different directions, how fast is it moving? You got to pick a way, and generally that lies with generalizations. So it's fair to say that typically we have agency, we have choice, but you will model what you see when you're young. That doesn't mean that your hormones are going to model what you see when you were young, because you're going to be into what you're going to be into. But we model what we see, and we have the choice to either fall down that path. In our community, it's all about, rapping and robbing and, the BS stuff we see with celebrities, because celebrities are, of course, absolutely nothing like us. And so we see, well, they're people too. Let me take that back. I take that back. But they have so much money that they don't have the same problems that we have. We'll say that.
Do they
spend so much time worrying about that stuff that we're not concerned about what's happening inside or what's happening with our community? We're not concerned about how to build families and things like that. That's the mental health issue. That's our problem. It's not about sexuality.
Building families. Go ahead.
Well, look, I'm amazed. This conversation is amazing. I'm curious if we brought on the young lady from last week's show in part 2, Chris, would you be willing to come on and have another discussion with her as well?
Oh yeah, I watched that interview. She made some good points. There were things that I disagree with, but she made some good points, and I would love to speak to her with you all, and that'd be a great panel for 4 Black people to get together and really hash things out, especially if we're going to focus on our community and what we can do to make it better and our mental health.
Right. Absolutely, and that's what this is all about, folks. Just to understand, this is all about trying to put out a conversation that is not always had. There's so much in society that as far as conversations that are had in public, right? But nothing like this. There's not much of this going on, and it's important.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. John, you got something?
Well, yeah. I mean, brother, I appreciate you coming on and hashing it out with us on this subject. Definitely would love to have you back because this is a very important subject and it has so many layers to it. Yes, I don't like to leave without talking about solutions, though, on where they could find you. Absolutely. And what are some of the solutions that you offer in your therapy?
I understand. I offer the solution of learning more about bonds and learning more about yourself, being able to look within yourself and become accountable for what you think and what you've done, because learning accountability and responsibility for ourselves and our lives is how we become greater. I like to teach people to move with intent toward their purpose, toward their goals. That's what empowerment counseling is really all about. Just stopping all the BS, putting all the nonsense behind us, and focusing in on your purpose. I like that acronym someone used for focus earlier. Focus only. Focus on. I can't remember what the acronym was.
Hey, I'll give it to you real quick. But that was none other than Uncle Michon. He is literally like the acronym king. He will make an acronym. He could probably have a conversation with you in all acronyms.
Well, shout out to that, brother.
To be honest with you, but here it is. Let's see. It is focus, follow one course until successful is the acronym for focus.
Yes, I hadn't heard that, but I sort of follow the same thing. Move toward your goals with intent.
And just understand, folks, that you heard this right here on the Tipping Point Show. So when we make a T-shirt, remember, we came up with the idea to make that T-shirt first. So you can still be trying to steal it. We're going to get with Uncle Michon and make that happen.
I really appreciate you guys having me on. This has been a great conversation. I love it when we disagree, because then we can work to find a common point.
Exactly.
And we can really focus on the things that bring us together rather than the things that pull us apart. And we're not doing that enough.
Yeah. Well, exactly. and let me share some with the audience here. What you guys witnessed right here between the three of us is a great emotional intelligence is what you guys have witnessed. Because here's the thing, in most cases, or a lot of cases out there, you can't have people, especially 3 melanated people, especially 3 melanated men, have a conversation, disagree, yet not pull emotions into it to the point to where, all of a sudden I don't like him. See, that's not what this is. Every person here and everybody who is actually commenting and whatnot, because we know a lot of these people, the emotional intelligence is high. Dr. Stephen Covey says that EQ is a greater gauge of a person's overall intelligence than even IQ. Absolutely. So it's interesting when you talk about that. And I think the lack of emotional intelligence is definitely something within our community that is a big issue and part of this conversation as well, because there's a place and a time for things. And when you start talking, police brutality and stuff like that, sometimes, trying to debate the officer out there is not the time. That's not the place and time to do that, versus waiting. Maybe you'll have to get arrested at that point, and then you fight your case in court. There's the place and time, as opposed to getting all emotionally involved and angered in that specific time, which does nothing but make him and his emotional intelligence and the lack thereof heighten as well. But nonetheless, this has been great. I love that we can debate, have conversations, disagree, yet be able to walk away and understand just great dialogue that we have, and know that we're all trying to do the same thing, which is heal our community. So awesome stuff. Shout out to you, brother Chris. Can you give them email address or any telephone numbers or anything that they can reach out to you?
Yeah. So my email address right now is edifyingcounselor. I don't know if I can write that in somewhere, but edifyingcounselor@gmail.com. You can also reach me at my business number, 502-230-3323. I have a Facebook site. You can leave a post on it if you want. It's Empowerment Counseling. And yeah, those are the three best ways to reach me at the moment. Typically, I'll get back to you. I'm fairly quick on my emails. I'm good on the phone typically. So reach out. I'll get back to you. I'm here to help. I'm doing my best. I'm at the beginnings, but that just means I got a long ways to grow, and everyone gets to experience and enjoy that.
That's awesome. And hopefully we spelled this correct. edifyingcounselor@gmail.com.
Yes, sir.
Good stuff. John, any last words before we rock out?
Yes, absolutely. This was a great show. Listen, looking forward to next week. Again, anybody have any comments, please put them in the box. Please share this as much as you can. Just share it. It definitely helps us out to get some more viewers, because people, we need to hear this subject here, and we're going to do this maybe 5 weeks. We don't know, but right now it's a subject that is so many layers to it. We can't seem to get enough of it. So looking forward to seeing you again next week, brother.
Yes, sir. See you soon. And before I go, let me just say to everybody out there, you are enough as you are right now. That doesn't mean that you can't grow, but you are enough. Love yourself.
Awesome. Joe, you froze on me?
Yeah, froze a little sideways.
Joe's upside down. Anyway, yeah, definitely great talk, brother. We will definitely revisit this hopefully next week, and we can bring the sister on and hash this out some more. Great answers. I think a lot of people got a lot of jewels out of this on this subject here. So as we begin to move out, I appreciate you coming in and working with us on this topic.
Absolutely. Y'all take care.
Okay, brother. Peace. Okay, Joe, looks like you're gone. Let me close out. All right. Peace out, family.
Hey folks, check out healthdaddywow.net. 100% plant-based herbs and supplements. Whether you're in person or online, use the word tipping for 10% off. Remember, feel better, look great, healthdaddywow.net. Remember, healthdaddywow.net.
Habibi Trading Company, home of soap sticks and Saya Baba products. Over 400 locations at a store near you. Cincinnati, Ohio, Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky, Southern Indiana, or find yours online at sayababa.com. Again, that's sayababa.com. Habibi Trading Company, where you can find fragrances to incite your senses.